I don't know, is it now the time?
I'm giving this present to you because I feel like you're outspoken, but people like to hear it.
He is here for the drama, but he might tell you a joke, ain't never told you a lie.
Exactly.
Charge it.
If you watched season 11, then you know where I stand in regards to Sean and Scottisha drama. At the end of the day, no one could say that Scott tells lies. Everybody agreed that Scott tells the truth. I am not buying this bully tag that Sean is trying to place on Scott. If we are calling Scott a bully, then what do we call Sean? Because Sean targeted about 4 or 5, he actually targeted 5 people. Name it. He targeted Oma, he got him sent home. He targeted Mimi, Jess, Ayo, and Josh. So the audacity and the idea, it's a pot calling the kettle black. It's the pot calling the kettle black, and he thought his tears would move us. They haven't. And oh my God, now Sammy is having a masterclass in Love Island, because Lucinda at the end of the day is now a pro when it comes to Love Island. She's been on the show countless times. She knows how to play it. And so the idea that you had Sammy trying to make it out that they were friends, and she was set with Kieran, only for Kieran's head to turn 180. I'm here for it. Lucinda, the way she played Kieran like a violin. Oh my God. Anyway, hey there, thanks for stopping by. It's your girl Valerie. Welcome to my channel. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe, click the like button, turn on the notification bell for when I upload new videos, and definitely leave a comment. In this episode, I'll be reviewing Love Island All Stars, Season 3, Episode 14. So we start off with the Islanders. Obviously, they were all dressed up and they were just hanging around the villa. And you have them be called together around the fire pit. And you know, production are about to be messy, because they can't have these people all dressed up for there to be peace and calm in the villa. And because they needed to have a vote as well. I think this is why they brought in the drama. Anyway, so they have a pile of boxes by the fire pit, and the Islanders are told to pick a box and then look at what's inside the box and then give it to someone and give you a rationale for giving the box. Here we go. Let the mess begin. First up was Curtis. He gave his box to Millie, and his reason, he said she's honest and she's lovely. Curtis wants to stay in the villa until the very end. He will take any clout he can get. The tag in the box said green flag. Millie was excited with that. Lucinda took hers. She gave it to Kieran, and she said, you know, he's my type. He's tall, dark, and handsome. And the tag said sexy. Kieran was happy with that. He didn't know what to do with himself. I think just the little attention he's getting from Lucinda is driving him loco. Sammy picked hers. She gave it to Scott, and she said, you know, he is right 99.9% of the time, and so she called him the biggest gossip. Scott said his ears silenced the moment she said 99% of the time, and I'm here for that. You had Shaq then give his to Leanne, and he said, you know, she sat in the kitchen eating for 3 hours, and Scott had to come and take her out of the kitchen. And it's like, maybe she was just avoiding talking to people. She just wasn't in a chatty mood, so she looked for something to keep herself busy. He gave her the tag boring. She wasn't happy with it, but she said, I'd rather be boring than anything else. And it's like, oh my God, here we go. Leanne then took hers. She gave it to Jack. She said he's got no strong connection. I think she was doing it on behalf of half of Whitney. She really wanted to shade him. And his was was a ticket to go home. And it's like, oh my God, let him go home. He's not bringing anything to the show. Anyway, Scott then picked up his. He gave his to Sean. Everybody had been having a go at Sean. So the audacity and the idea that he was more aggrieved by Scott, I wasn't buying it. I really wasn't buying it. Because Scott picked up his. He said, you know, at the end of the day, Sean was snaky towards Shaq. And so he gave him pot stirrer. Everybody said no. Sean is a pot stirrer. People haven't heard him whisper behind people's backs. All the nasty things he said. I have a feeling he's not going to go home. I have a feeling production is going to keep him so that movie night, he will have to answer for what he and his friend were saying. And I love the fact that we had that little clip played out before, you know, the vote. And so for him to be upset with Scott and say Scott is a bully, it takes one to know one, really. It takes one to know one. Scott is saying to him, at the end of the day, I haven't spoken to you. I spoke to you on day 1 and I spoke to you today, day 12. So when did I bully you? And bully is a big tag. The idea that you had people like just crying is like, please take several seats. We're not here for the theatrics. This has nothing to do with you. Even Helena was looking at her like, are you losing your mind? What is it? What's wrong with you? And I was like, I'm here for that. Everybody had to settle it down. Here's my opinion. Scott saw how Sean behaved in his season, and Sean was terrible in his season. He had Omar sent home because Omar and him were competing over Matilda, and then he went after Mimi, Josh, Jess, and Ayo just because Joey wanted to go after them, and they were looking for theatrics and they wanted the ratings, and so they were doing anything and everything to provoke someone, even to the extent that you had Mimi and Josh crying in the bedroom. And for Sean to put on that apron and throw sweets at Josh and call him names and whatever, it takes one to know one. And I think the likes of, Scott seeing that is the reason why they have it in for Sean. And the only difference is everybody else can agree to be cordial, but Scott is not going to lie. He's going to tell you the truth as it stands. And so for Sean to start crying and then to have Belle and everybody else having to intervene, I can't wait for them when they see and hear what you were saying, when you were saying all those nasty things about Scott. At least Scott says it to your face. He's been busy bad-mouthing Scott behind Scott's back, and I think production were fed up. This is why they played it, so I can't wait for it to replay on movie night. I love that people were trying to silence Scott because they were saying it's too much, it's too much. And with that, Sean's head became too big because he thought that, everyone was siding with him. But then to have the girls back Scott back to back to back to back, I was here for it because he was saying Scott is picking on me, and the girls were saying, but Scott tells the truth. And it's like, well, so we've chosen sides, haven't we? Next up, you had Helena pick up her card. She gave it to Scott, and she said, he's very outspoken. His card was he's here for the drama. Everybody just looked at him. Sean and his posse weren't happy because at the end of the day, this was something positive for someone that they had drawn a line with. Tommy then picked up his, he gave it to Scott. He said, you give honest advice, but you need to stay out of people's drama. And it's like, well, you are in the villa. People are encouraged to have opinions, and this is what Scott is doing. So he gave him a cup that said childish. And Scott said to him, how am I childish if you say I'm your role model? Which is it? Am I your role model or am I childish? Pick your poison. Don't, straddle the line. Connor picked up his, he gave it to Whitney, and Whitney was nervous. I think she was wondering what the hell. She was looking at him like, yeah. And then, he said, I love that she confided in me. She really opened up, and so it's giving long term. And it's like, oh, I really love this for her. I think they're the sweetest ever, and I think they're actually growing as a couple. You had Scott was given a box by Millie, and Whitney was nervous and like, oh, another speech again, here we go. Scott himself, you could tell, was trying to restrain himself, and then you had Millie stand up there and say, I love that you give me honest advice and you'll always give me your honest opinion. You won't lie to me, you won't tell me what I want to hear, but you'll give me the truth. And her thing was, you're a good communicator. And it's like, oh my God, I love this. I really love this because now those people in the corner that were going after Scott, all the girls are saying he's telling the truth and he's honest and he's genuine. To then have Whitney, I love it. To have Whitney say, he's a good communicator, unlike the rest of the boys, because she was nervous for Scott because she thought people were trying to tear him down. So she was already on ready because that's her best friend. And then she was asked, which men are you saying all of us were bad communicators? And she went, no, I'm talking about them in that corner, sort of pointing at the three musketeers. And I was like, Whitney is always going to defend her friend, whether he needs to be defended or not. She's always on ready. So I love that for Scott. And so after that, you had, people sort of walk off. The game was finished. Obviously, the tears had dried. They were only performative. They were only for a little bit. And then once that was finished, they moved on. So you had Sean and his two musketeers go and sit by the mini fire pit. Well, Scott was left at the big fire pit. And you had Curtis saying to him, you need to have an honest conversation with him. You don't need to do it in front of everyone. Try and have your chat away from everyone. Scott was saying the problem is Sean used tears, and when someone uses tears, people then sort of feel sorry for that person and they don't look at the truth, because if they looked at the truth, they would understand why I said what I said and I stand on what I said. Sean was busy talking to his minions, saying, he's tarnishing my personality. I was a Scott. No, you were not a Scott. No, you were not a Scott. You were just picking on people just for the sake of it because you wanted to make it to the finale. I feel like Sean is one of the smartest boys in the villa, and he plays on this good boy image, and he's giving me, maybe I watched first 48 for too many episodes. That's why I sort of look at him sideways, because I don't trust him at all. I feel like he's one of the most villainous guys in the villa. For Tommy to say, my mom really loved you, she watched your season, I have a side eye for your mom. How dare your mom like someone who made other people miserable, only to say, she liked him? For what? And for him to cry, Belle came, he was crying. It was performative because we didn't get to see his tears, but we saw him rub his eyes, so he wanted her to think he was crying. Why Belle felt the need to comfort him, I don't get it. I feel sorry for you. You don't need to explain anything. I was just here to come and sort of watch and keep an eye and just make sure you're okay. And it's like, you don't need to check on him. You don't need to check on him. He is fine in himself. He doesn't need anyone to keep an eye on him or anyone to check in to make sure he's okay. He's performing because he came in with a plan to revamp his character. The same way, once he left the villa and he saw the backlash, he started sort of sucking up to Mimi and Josh when they went to events. So this is nothing new, and I'm not buying it. Anyway, you had Sammy sit on the daybed with Kieran. They were having a chat, and surprisingly, they were talking about zips on his jumper. And it's like, of all the things, I think Kieran is done with her. I think he's ready to jump ship, but he's looking for a way of jumping ship without losing a partner, because they already have seen what's happened to Shaq, and they're trying to avoid that. So for her to sort of lean in and kiss Kieran, I think Sammy thought it was a power move. That's what I'm going to say. I think she thought it was a power move. I think she thought this is how she was going to sort of keep him away from Lucinda, not knowing that Lucinda is a pro at this. Sammy has only done 2 shows. This is her 3rd one, whereas Lucinda has done multiple, Love Island. So she's become a pro at sort of hooking guys. So I really was just side-eyeing her, because after the kiss, you then had Sammy ran to the kitchen to tell the rest of the girls that this is what happened. He kissed me, we kissed each other on the daybeds, blah, blah, blah. And Lucinda came to have a conversation with the girls, so she went with Millie, and obviously Millie was going to pass the information on, because once they sat down on the daybeds, Lucinda and Millie, you had Lucinda say, Sammy's trying to make it out that we were close friends. We're not close friends. We were never close friends. So the idea that she's telling everyone that her and I were friends, I don't get where she's getting it from. After that, that's when Millie revealed that, just to let you know, Sammy and Kieran kissed. And it's like, oh my God. I personally don't understand why Lucinda got upset, because at the end of the day, she stole somebody else's partner. It's not the other way around. If she was in Sammy's shoes and she was upset with Kieran, it would make sense, but I didn't get why she was that upset with him. Kieran then came and sort of tried to have a conversation with her. She refused to talk to him because she was now knowing that she's coming from a position of power. And I think Kieran likes a dominant woman, because the fact that he was sort of groveling after Lucinda, when Lucinda is someone he's just coupled up with, didn't make sense. He went in the kitchen, he was telling the guys that, he wanted to tell Lucinda what happened, but it seems someone has run and told her, and now she is refusing to speak to him. And it's like, Lucinda knows her strength, and she knows guys' weaknesses, so she's going to use that to her advantage. Because while he was speaking to the guys, that's when she called him for a chat. Went for a chat and told him that she's upset because he said he wanted to get to know her, but it seemed like he's in a already settled couple. Obviously she had been told by Millie that they're set, it's you are second pick. It seems he and Sammy are very set. They are not set because of what he's saying and what he's doing. It shows that he is smitten by Lucinda and is ready to jump ship. Lucinda told him, I think this is the end of the road. And I think telling him that, I think Kieran likes the chase. That's the impression that I get. He likes the chase, and once he's found his person, he moves on to the next prey. And Sammy wasn't as much a chase for him. If you look at it, he didn't really need to do much for her to win her over. Lucinda then went into the girls' changing room. She had a conversation with Helena. She was complaining bitterly that how dare he give me the opinion that he's open to exploring a connection with me, only to find out that he and Sammy are locked in. And it's like, well, girl, it's up to you. Do what works for you. Do what's in your best interest. All the islanders get ready for bed. It was interesting to see people make out in bed. I didn't realize that Connor and Whitney are that progressed that they're making out in bed. Scott and Leanne, it's a daily occasion. In the morning, the islanders woke up and someone was saying, were there any cuddles or kissing in bed? And you had Whitney say, it was the usual culprits. I was like, oh my God, as Scott and Leanne that busy all night that everyone now knows that they are the ones who are kissing. It was really cute. The morning sort of temperature was okay. You had the girls sit down for a chat, and so Sammy was sort of talking about the fact that she doesn't understand what's going on with with Kieran. It seems like they're treading on eggshells. He's trying not to upset Lucinda. She doesn't understand because she thought they were locked in. It's like you were locked in for that moment. I think he's learned from his mistakes from his season, so he's going to take his time to make sure that he has the right pick for himself because he locked himself too quickly, Kieran, on his season, so he's not going to do the same thing this season. And so surprisingly, you had Kieran sort of pull Lucinda for a chat. Kieran sadly is in the doghouse and he knows he's in the doghouse and is doing everything to win the wrong person instead of winning the person he was in a couple with and was steady in a couple with. So he was trying to speak to Lucinda to suss out to see where they stand, to see if there's an opportunity for them to continue with their connection because Lucinda had called it quits. And Lucinda was sort of making him earn it. Poor thing, I felt sorry for him because he was actually literally groveling, more or less saying, okay, fine, if that's the case, I will drop everything and I'll stop exploring with Sammy. That's more or less what he was left to say. In the kitchen, you had Leanne speaking to the three musketeers, trying to sort of suss out where they stand when it comes to the Scott situation. And I think trying to make it clear that at the end of the day, everyone has their opinions and we have to sort of stick to that. You had Scott come out. He went and had a chat with Sean. I feel like I agree, it was producer coordinated. And you had, Sean trying to be performative for his mates, I think, to try and make it seem like he's the bigger guy and having Scott grovel. Sadly, Scott didn't grovel the way he expected him to grovel. Scott said, my delivery is bad. I think Leanne told him that you are telling the truth, but your delivery, you have to be mindful. And he said, I am someone who's used to brutal honesty, so maybe my delivery to you is bad, but otherwise, I stand on business. I want people that stand on business, and I stand by every single thing I said. I am upset at the fact that you said I'm a bully when all I've done is I've spoken to you on day 1 and today is day 12. So where did I bully you? A bully someone who goes after you every single day. For Scott to try and make it seem like he's the victim and his experience has been ruined by Scott. He's been ruined by Scott on 2 occasions. What about you? You made other people miserable morning, noon, and night. So please take several seats. I'm not buying it. I agree that they'll never be friends. That's because I would rather not have any friends than have friends like Sean. I'm going to stick to that. I would rather have no friends than to have friends like Sean. So I totally agree with that and I understand that. Sean, I think, was upset that he didn't get the apology that I expected, where the production had promised him that Scott was going to grovel. Sadly, Scott is the wrong one and the two. And if we are to ask for someone to go home, I'd rather lose Sean than to lose Scott. You had Sean go to Belle and he was telling Belle that, I am okay, I'm doing okay, we will never be friends, we'll never be mates. He keeps digging at me, he keeps trying to upset me, but I'm always going to sort of stick to myself. Yes, I was emotional. It wasn't that he was emotional because of what Scott said. He was emotional because he knew he had got caught. The same way Charlie became emotional when he found out that Scott was able to read his game. The thing is, boys don't want someone who will tell them the truth about themselves, and this is why they all get upset with Scott. So I'm not buying anything that he's trying to sell. Scott, I love that he really immediately went to Leanne and he said, you're my comfort blanket. You've made my experience better because you are what I came looking for. I didn't come here to look for friends. I came here to look for a romantic connection and I found that. And they're really so cutesy and sweet. I really love them as a couple. Leanne asked him, so did he retract his bullying comment? And you had Scott say, no, he didn't. He didn't retract his comment. He stands by it. And they both agree that Scott is not a bully. Scott is not a bully. He played the game just like everybody else. The only difference is Sean was already looking for a way of making himself Scott's victim, and this gave him the right opportunity to do that. So I don't buy anything else that he's trying to sell us. You had Kieran pull Sammy for a chat because Sammy went to have a conversation with Jess and Shaq, and she was sort of upset at the idea that it seems like Kieran is leaning more towards Lucinda. Kieran then came and pulled her to the fire pit. She was crying. And he told her that, I don't want to upset you. I don't want to upset Lucinda. I want to do what's in my best interest. And because of that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop being physically intimate with you. That way I can get to know the two of you genuinely without sort of shading that with physical intimacy. And I was like, oh my God, this is him telling you, girl, we're over. So keep it stepping. Anyway, thanks guys for watching. Please don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Click on the link in my video to watch my review from episode 13. Bye guys.